Hey everybody, it's your old pal Mike. I hope you're happy, healthy, and safe, and welcome back to the channel because this week is episode 5 of Refit and Restore, a series in which I, your humble host, does the business to a 1961 Jazzmaster that has been through the ringer. Already, we have disassembled it. We have cleaned up some rusty parts. We have taken care of the electronics. We have given the neck a beautiful refret, if I do say so myself, and I do. And now I think we're ready to put it all back together, and that's going to be a little bit of an involved process. So do stay tuned as we go through all of the aspects of putting this guitar back into a single piece. Now I've got all of my parts here, so I am just going to get into it without any further ado. And the first thing I want to take care of are the bridge thimbles. The bridge thimbles are these things in which the bridge sits on the body, and they go in these holes right here. Now this one doesn't take a whole lot of force to put in there, but I'm not ready to stick the treble side thimble in yet because this one gets a ground wire. If you aren't aware, old Jazzmasters had this sort of feeble grounding system wherein a piece of wire was inserted in the hole that the thimble is in, and the thimble is hammered into place, and that little ground wire makes contact with the shield that's on the back of the pickguard, thus grounding to the components and all of that. It's an okay way to do it. It may not be my favorite. In fact, I vastly prefer just drilling a hole through the trem cavity into the control cavity and running a wire through there. But I remember this guitar being really well grounded before, so I'm not all that concerned about it, and it will have a mastery bridge, so the connection between bridge and thimble should be solid enough. But in any case, I'm going to hammer these back in with a rubber mallet. There we go. There we go. Didn't take much. I am also going to cut down this wire just a little bit so it doesn't hang over the edge and poke me while I'm working. And while I'm at it, I'm going to use my fretting hammer to lightly tap it into the finish here as well so that it doesn't push the guard up. Well, I think it's time to put the shielding plates back in, and I'm really excited about this part because if you remember, I went to town on this in episode 2 trying to get all of the rust out, and I'm really happy with the results. I think it came out great. We'll just go ahead and do that. Yep. Fits like a charm. I'm gonna extract this and pull it out a little bit so that it fits a little bit nicer, because I don't want these sides making any contact with the electronic components to which they are closest. You can see there's some holes for nails in there which were not present, so I may tack them in as well just to be on the safe side, but you know what, I think that's going to be plenty good for me and my needs. Yeah, that'll do, I think. Now these two plates go directly under the pickups for additional shielding, and they are soldered into place like so. So let me heat up my soldering iron and we'll get it done. And while I'm waiting for my soldering iron to get up to speed, I'm gonna set this rhythm circuit plate back in the body. Now this is a 1961 Jazzmaster, so sadly it doesn't have the full shielding tub in the rhythm circuit, but this will do just fine, I think. Alright, soldering iron's all heated up, so we are going to get on the good work of attaching the shielding plates. Just lost my train of thought there. Just gonna massage it in there. Oh yeah. Look at that good joint. That should do just fine. Let's get some on this boy. Now this solder isn't doing anything structural, it's not really holding them in, it is simply there to make a connection between the two plates, so it's not that important for it to be a nice big thick piece of solder. You just want enough to ensure that they are connected electrically. Next thing I'm going to do is run a wire, if I can find my spare wire. Run a wire from here to here, just to make sure the two plates are connected. All right, that's a nice joint. Yep. I didn't see a glazer point in here, and I think I might need to make one. Have I got anything that I can tear apart? Spare shield is on that guard now. Oh, I could use... Since this thing is trash, this is the original shield from the back of the pickguard of this guitar. You know, I might just cut off a couple sections of this to hold that plate in place. Because there is absolutely no need to keep this around. Like, I want to give this back for I don't know what reason. It's nice to have original parts, but this thing is so deteriorated and gross that I don't ever want to see this back on the guitar. Yeah, I'm going to cut off a relatively nice section of that to use as a glazer point. And a glazer point is just a little soldered-in triangular piece of metal that holds this side of the shield in place. Oh, that worked beautifully. Oh, fret nippers. Hey, forget about it. Look at that. That worked perfectly. Okay, okay. We're just going to knock this into place with a screwdriver. I use my dead blow hammer. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted out of that. And we're just going to solder it in place. Okay, that is installed. All of this is installed. That feels pretty good. I think the next thing I'm going to do is put the vibrato back in place. Now you'll notice the trem lock button is not on there. That's because it did not survive the de-aging process. Sadly, it was stuck on there and I was concerned about rust. And if you remember, I tried to get it off and couldn't. And eventually it just kind of crumbled off. The insides of it had gone bad. So we are waiting on a replacement for that, although I still have the lock button itself, so I may be able to reuse that. I'm not sure yet. And Kyle, the owner, was not all that fussed about it. He really didn't care. So we are just going to let it ride. But first... I think we're ready for pickups. Alright, I've got the entire guard assembly here, ready to go, nice and clean, as well as the new pickup. Which one did we replace? The bridge pickup, that's right. The bridge pickup was rewound poorly, but we found an original bridge pickup to go with it, and I think it's going to sound really good. So we are ready to just kind of pop this back on. Now remember, this is a Spitfire guard, so there shouldn't be any issues with shrinking or fit, any of that, because this thing was made for this guitar, essentially. So that will be just fine. But we are going to replace that foam. Foam was not great, I'll be honest. It's all the same height, so we are going to put a little foam here, right between the screws. A little foam here, right between the screws, just so that all that pressure is hitting the foam and not messing with the pickup bobbin itself. And I might even put some more foam underneath there because it's bouncing a little bit and I want that pickup to be tight. I don't want it to move around when you put your hand on the guitar. That's not a great thing. But the neck pickup should not have that issue, for it is a neck pickup and they are lower. Yeah, that'll feel good, I think. Now I've got the foam placed. I'm going to connect my ground. We're going to put a wire here, a wire there, and that should connect all of the shields together. Reflow all of this solder while we're in here. I'm just going to make it as long as it needs to be, which is not very, to be honest. I'd like it to be a little bit longer so that I can lift the guard off the body when I'm working on it. That's something I like to do for the future, in case anyone else works on this guy. I want them to have a nice, easy go of it. Good enough. You know what? Before I close up, let's get the multimeter out and just check for continuity. Oh, wrong mode. Whew, almost had a heart attack. Yep. We are good to go. Yep, everything's connected. That's good. It's starting to look like a guitar again, isn't it? Love this part. Love this part of the process. Putting everything back in its right place. All right. So my wires are in the right spots. Yep. Original cover's still going strong. All my wires are out of the way. Yep, that is good. Let's get my screws out. Now I like to arrange my screws in sort of a natural pattern. I like to look at the heads of them. See, that one's super shiny. And it's bigger, so this is replaced. That's not an original screw. But I like to compare the amount of wear they each have and then kind of guess what position they were in. For instance, a screw right next to the bridge will often wear more aggressively because there's sweat hitting it constantly. Whereas this screw right here by the toggle switch, those often end up staying sort of shiny and chromy throughout their entire lives. So I like to just make sure things are going back into their proper positions, or at least, you know, something as close as possible to where they were before. Ones next to the neck often get a lot of corrosion. This boy I'm going to put right here. Yep. Other super dark one. New guy can go right down here at the jack because they usually don't get a whole lot. And this one can go right here by the toggle switch. I'm going to put you two right here. Slightly more worn because it's close to the rhythm circuit. And you go in that upper position. At this worn guy goes right next to the neck because you are going to get it. And I'm going to put you two in that position. And I see that I'm missing two. No, they're right here in this little bag with the tuners. And one of these bad boys looks extra crispy, so I think I'm going to... Ooh, these are the worst of the bunch even. So I think I'm going to put you here. Super crispy boy right there. And lightly polished crispy boy right here. Rusty, 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 not so rusty, super shiny, not so rusty, corroded, rusty. That is way too shiny to live there. It looks super out of place. Let's swap you two. Yeah. These new screws, they stick out like a sore thumb, what with their bigger heads. It's probably a me thing. I'm sure nobody else really cares. But I do. All right. That is a guard. I think the rhythm circuit wires are bunched up a little bit, yeah. Let's get them out of the way. Here we go. That's sitting flat now. Much better. All right. Next, get these pickups secured. Make a decision about this bridge pickup, whether or not I want to add more foam, which I think I will. But let's screw them in and see what we've got. Those look like bridge pickup screws. Very rusty. In fact, they're all pretty rusty. Oh, that's right. I had two that might not work anymore. Let me see. I might have some originals stashed away, but I don't know. They're working fine. They're going in fine. So yeah, they'll work. Now we're just going to screw it in to a position, not necessarily the position, but an position. Perfect. That is so pleasant, that amount of springiness on the foam. This guy... How high is this bridge going to sit? Because I'm going to try and not alter the setup too much if I can help it. That's plenty of height. I think I'm just going to leave it as is. I'll reevaluate down the line. That is moving. I want it to have a taut, not so springy feel, and just keeping the bridge pickup stationary as possible is always a good thing. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna add a little bit more foam, but just a little bit. Hi everyone, I'm on my knees still. That's bad for looking at. I'm gonna cut this piece of foam with my box cutter blade, just right in half down the middle. And that should give me plenty of extra height. So I'm just going to stick these to the top of the foam I've already installed, with the one that's a little bit taller on the treble side, because I often find that to get a nice balance out of the pickup, you've got to angle it slightly up toward the treble strings. But that is just a preference that I have. Some people flatten them, some people do it the opposite way. Takes all kinds. Oh, now this is going to do the trick for me. I can feel how much resistance it has when I'm holding it down. Screwing in these screws. Whoops. I let go a little bit too quickly. Man, this guitar cleaned up so nice. I'm very excited. Oh, yeah, that's nice. That's... You're going to put your hand down and it's not going to go anywhere. We got a body! This is so exciting. I love this. I'm so happy to see my good friend, the Jazzmaster, back in the land of the living. I have to tighten that now. Ooh, that's the wrong one. Yeah. You can see that bridge is leaning to one side, so we'll have to mess with overall height. I think I'll just set it flat, as I usually do, so that I have that ready. Yep. I think it's time to install the neck, and to do so, I'm going to put the original black fiber shim in the neck pocket, and then there's this little wooden one that was added. I liked the way the guitar played, so I don't want to alter it too much, so I think we're just going to stick with it. Nice old neck plate. Do one screw at a time here. I'm really excited to see how this thing plays after the refret. The refret went really well. I'm really happy with the work. I feel good about it. Made sure those were all level. Got ourselves a guitar. Hey, it's coming back. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, I'm so excited. This is going to be great. Or, conversely, it could be terrible. Who knows? No, it'll be great. I feel really confident that it will be great. But we're going to flip it over, reinstall these tuners. should take absolutely no time at all. They are beautifully maintained. Thank you, me. Aw, yeah. Aw, yeah. How are you tight? Aw, yeah. Aw, yeah. Got it. This is exciting. I'm so happy. If this camera isn't picking up me installing the tuners again, all I'm doing is pushing some screws into the headstock and turning them. It's actually kind of boring. I may have even cut that in the first place. So I'll tell you if anything interesting happens up here at the headstock, although I don't suspect anything shall. Oh my God, a golden ticket! I've got a golden ticket. I've got a twinkle in my eye. Oh, it's almost a guitar. I'm so excited. Say brusha, 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 brusha. It's the new Ipana. Moment of truth. Now there might be one more step involved in this guitar becoming playable again, and that is a new nut, which is something you often have to do when you do a refret, because you're leveling and then adding more height with the new frets. So I'm pretty certain that I'm going to have to cut a new nut for this. I've got one already roughed in and ready to go, but we're going to try it with the original just to see, because I don't want to change things if I don't have to. I probably will have to. And it wasn't really glued in in the first place. So we're just, I guess we're ready to put strings on. I didn't put any tension on the truss rod because I wanted to see how that neck is going to feel at tension. Because there was, if you remember, a significant amount of backward bow from the 3rd to 1st fret positions. But I was able to sand that out by removing material, as I had to anyway for the 9.5-inch radius. I'm so excited. We are using Ernie Ball Power Slinkies 11 to 48. Personally, I prefer a 50 on the low E, but that's just me being myself. That's a good sign. And that's without extra string tension. I feel like we're going to be okay. I don't think this nut is going to cut it. Also because when I did the refret, the old frets were dead flat. Absolutely flat. And this nut is cut as if the string spacing matches how absolutely flat and worn out these frets are. So I think I'm going to have to slim out the spacing, especially from the treble side, just a little bit with these new taller frets and the way the fret ends are shaped. Yeah, that's gonna be a big deal. Believe it or not, I actually really enjoy making nuts. It's kind of a therapeutic thing for me. I really enjoy the pace at which I have to work to do my best work. And there's nothing like taking a blank piece of bone and turning it and shaping it into something that's really attractive visually and something that works beautifully. So those are things that I really like. Oh, that's a good sign. I'm really excited. I feel good about it. This moment is always a little bit scary for me because no matter how great I do at a fret job, there's still like that part of my brain where alarm bells are going off like, oh God, what if it doesn't play right? And if it doesn't play right, you just do it again. But I feel like we did a pretty good job. That neck is straightening out really nicely. Yeah, I feel like once all these strings are on, I think it's going to come together really well. As an added bonus, I like to solder the plain strings of most available sets on the market, just for an added level of protection against the ball end unwinding. That can happen on the offset vibrato, especially with certain brands that have a weaker finish wrap. An old trick. Before tour, I always sit down a few nights before and solder every plain string in my stash. Let them cool off a moment. I'm going to take a nice refreshing sip of Coca-Cola. It's very good. That was purely ad-libbed, and I'm not sure I want that in there. It was terrible. What a stupid joke. I'm sure other techs can relate to this. I did absolutely have one of those days recently where I hated everything I did. Oh, that's one of the tougher things about having obsessive-compulsive disorder and being a guitar tech is even if you do a great job, even if the customer is completely happy, oftentimes you can see every tiny little minuscule detail that doesn't completely meet your expectations. That's something that I've learned over the years, that I have to take a break, I have to breathe, I have to count sometimes. And I've got a network of other tech friends who are really supportive, and I can write to them. Like Mike Baranick, who builds incredible guitars. I wrote to him, and I said, holy crap, I see every single flaw in everything I do. I feel like I'm terrible. And Mike was very quick to point out that that's absurd, and that I should be very happy with the level of quality that I put out into the world, and also that he often feels like that himself. And his builds are incredible. Have you seen his guitars? I mean, my God. And maybe you've seen them without even realizing it. Harrison Whitford, who plays for Phoebe Bridgers, was using one on that SNL performance. It's a Batman-looking guitar with the sliding pickup. One of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. Seriously, check out Mike Baranick's work. Really amazing stuff. I hope to own one of my own someday. Moment of truth time. Oh, God. A little bit of stretchy. Tuners feel really good. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I can't wait to plug this in. I think I will let this settle in overnight. And I'll come back in the morning, finish up the setup, really let it acclimate to string tension, to its new everything, as I'm a firm believer that wood settles. It just takes some time. And this is something that I tell people every time I do a setup for them. I say, hey, if you pick up your guitar in a week or 2 weeks and it feels completely different, that happens sometimes. Wood is just a little bit unpredictable. It settles. And yes, sometimes it will settle in a way that is not pleasant. So let's let this go and come back and see what we've got.
2,000 years later.
All right, we are back, and I have to be straight with you. It's 2 days later. The next day, I came back, and honest to gosh, it took me like 2 hours to decide whether or not I wanted to cut a new nut. The nut that was on there was just right on the edge of being too low, and did I want to go to the trouble? Did I want to add to the cost of the procedure? And in the end, I decided that yes, I needed to go to the trouble to make this guitar play its very best. However, there is a wrinkle, and that wrinkle is that I forgot to record that part of the process. I got to the end of cutting a beautiful, functional, highly polished nut that I am extraordinarily proud of. Like, it might be some of my best work. And I looked up and said, well, shit, I forgot to turn the camera on, so I'm very sorry about that. I wanted to show you every single part of this restoration process, and I failed miserably. But I promise at some point we will come back around. We will do a video on how to cut a beautiful and perfect nut every single time. I will make it up to you, I promise. After that process and just a little bit of a setup tweak because I wasn't entirely thrilled with how it played. The action was just a little bit higher than I thought I would want, and certainly higher than I thought the owner would want. Now, he's primarily like a blues rock player. He wants to do some bending, he wants to do some fancy chords, and I wanted to make sure this thing plays as cleanly as possible, and I've got to say, I mean, I could not be more thrilled with how this Jazzmaster came out compared to what it was when it came in the first time, with incredibly worn frets. Some had deep gouges in them, and still others were crowned flat intentionally to help mitigate the buzz issues that were happening in positions 1, 2, and 3 due to some back bow in the neck that I was mostly able to plane out. I didn't want to go too far on the planing because we're getting kind of low on rosewood, but it's much better than it was. Honestly, I'm really happy with this. Yeah, this whole thing went so smoothly, and I could not be happier with the results. And at the end of all of this work, just like I said, we came out of it with a much better guitar than what I was handed when this first came in for work. This thing rips. This is a great guitar. It's got a great sound. It plays beautifully. I really am proud of this, and I hope that you've enjoyed following me along on this journey. All of the work that I've put in, it feels really good to have nursed this thing back into health, to bring it back into good playing condition, and I can only imagine just how pleased Kyle's going to be when I hand this back to him. But I suppose the final and truest test of any restoration process is to plug the damn thing in and let it rip. So let's do it. All right, let's hear how it sounds. Wait, I'm just kidding. I know that would be incredibly evil of me to not at least give you a taste of what's to come. So why don't we run through the How Can I Help You riff that I always play, and then I'll jam just for a little bit, and we'll save the rest of the demoing for later.